Bess Price is chair of the Northern Territory's Indigenous Advisory Council. I spoke with her earlier and asked if the intervention had helped slow the rivers of grog.
Well, to my understanding, it has had an impact on the grog, the alcohol, and it's made life a bit better for the children.
You say a bit better, but obviously not as good as you'd like to see it.
Look, the situation's not going to be fixed overnight, and it's going to take years to fix, not everything, but right now it's done a huge amount of change in the way people have thought about children as well in regards to their health and well-being.
So are you concerned that children are still at risk?
Children are still at risk, and as I said earlier, it's going to take a long time to get it right.
There's been a lot of criticism of the intervention as well, particularly that people weren't consulted at the outset. Is that fair criticism?
That is fair in a way, but we've had so much consultation here in the Northern Territory with people coming out to various communities, consulting people about everything and anything. And as I said on Q&A, it was an emergency and our people's lifestyle needed changing.
What about income management? Because that's been particularly controversial as well, and some people are saying that was a return to the old missionary-style culture.
I disagree with that, because the people who were living under the missionaries, they were looked after. And you can ask old people who've been through that, who've said they were well looked after then, and they were the ones who knew the law, knew how to protect their people and their children.
What needs to be done? Are you worried that the resources will leave when the intervention's over?
Well, I hope that it doesn't go in that direction. I hope people are supported, and I hope it will stay a bit longer. And hopefully by then people then will understand the greater need for the protection of our children and for our women as well.
What about education? Have you seen an improvement in children attending school?
Education, look, each community is different from one another. So one community you hear that it's working for them, the numbers have risen. Yuendamu, I can say proudly that Yuendamu school has improved and the children are attending, and we have a great principal out there as well who tries their best.
What needs to be done about education?
The education is very important. That's what I think our government needs to focus on, in improving the standards here in the Northern Territory. And we have great people who've got good hearts, who want to do the right thing for our children, but we lack the resources. So we need to focus a bit more on resources and to understand, a bit of understanding towards how education should be tailored for people.
Well, Bess, what are your thoughts on what alcohol's doing to the communities and what can be done about that?
That is a serious problem amongst our people, and I believe what now needs to take place is a review on how much the consumption of alcohol is involved in the territory, or even if it's just concentrated in Central Australia, to combat all the problems that we face. And I think the Liquor Commission should come forward as well, and the government should be working together to see if we can overcome this problem about alcoholism in our community.
But is alcohol and violence and domestic violence and child abuse really just symptoms of what we're seeing with problems with the community problem, which is a much deeper problem, which is a family breakdown?
Look, there's other underlying issues as well, because you can't just say that's a symptom. There's other mental illnesses as well that people haven't been able to talk about amongst the Aboriginal community. And there's the feuding, there's all these other underlying factors that are so separate from what we see now that affects our people, and they just don't know how to counteract all that to make it, make it better for themselves.
How do you get the Aboriginal leadership to agree?
I think people who know nothing about us should stay well clear and mind their own businesses and let us get on with it. As Aboriginal people here, we have to deal with all these issues and these problems.
But there's obviously too an ideological divide within the Aboriginal community. We saw what Larissa Brent, for example, had to say about your views on this.
Yeah, I'm not worried about her because she doesn't live here.
Will it take years or generations to close the gap?
Oh, it'll be both, I guess, because there's a whole range, age group of Aboriginal people out there who don't understand that they can do well as well. They can do better for themselves. They think that they just expect that the way that they live is normal, and they aren't given the opportunity to look for themselves in furthering themselves.
Well, Bess Price, thank you.
Thank you.
And late this afternoon, opposition leader Tony Abbott arrived in town. He'll be spending the night here before heading out to some of the town camps tomorrow. He's been invited, of course, by a group of the local Indigenous leaders who've asked him to come and sit down in the dirt and have a talk with him. He's come from Christmas Island, where he looked at a detention centre, and from Whyalla, where he looked at a steelworks. So he's continuing to plug those themes that he's got going against the government of border protection and the carbon tax. And tomorrow evening on 7:30, we'll be speaking with Tony Abbott. Now back to Lee Sales in the studio and the rest of the day's stories.